Sophia sat at the kitchen table, absently tracing the wood grain as raised voices echoed from the living room. Her parents, Eric and Angela, were arguing again, this time louder than ever. She tried to drown out the sound, but Angela's sharp words cut through the walls like knives. "You're a failure, Eric! Everything we have is because of me and my family's legacy." Angela spat. Eric's voice was lower, but no less intense. "I've given everything to this family, Angela. Everything. And it's still not enough for you." Sophia exchanged a glance with her younger sister, Emma, who clutched a stuffed bunny, her wide eyes reflecting fear and confusion. Sophia reached out to squeeze Emma's hand, whispering, "It's okay. I'm here." Hours later, the house fell silent. When Eric finally emerged, suitcase in hand, Sophia's heart sank. "Dad, where are you going?" she asked, her voice trembling. Eric knelt in front of her, his eyes glassy with unshed tears. "I'm sorry, sweetheart. I can't stay here anymore. This isn't good for anyone." Sophia's chest tightened. "But what about us? What about Emma?" "I love you both, more than anything," he said, pulling her into a tight hug. "But I need to leave. I'll always be here if you need me. Promise me you'll look out for your sister." Sophia nodded numbly, tears spilling down her cheeks. Emma stood frozen, clutching her bunny as Eric kissed her forehead and walked out the door. When Angela returned later that evening, she didn't look surprised. "Good riddance," she muttered under her breath. Sophia stared at her in disbelief. "How can you say that? He's our dad." Angela's gaze hardened. "Your father cheated on me, Sophia. He betrayed this family. I won't let him ruin us." Sophia didn't know what to believe. All she knew was that her family had just shattered into pieces, and she felt powerless to stop it. 3 months after Eric's departure, Angela made an announcement over breakfast that left Sophia stunned. "I'm getting married," she said casually, sipping her coffee. Sophia nearly choked on her cereal. "What? To who?" Angela smiled, as if discussing the weather. "His name is Victor. We've been seeing each other for a while now. He's been such a support through everything." Sophia stared at her mother, struggling to process the news. "Dad just left. And now you're remarrying. What about us?" Angela waved her hand dismissively. "You'll understand when you're older. True love doesn't wait." 2 weeks. Later, Victor moved in. He was tall, charming, and always impeccably dressed. On the surface, he seemed polite and eager to connect, especially with Emma, who quickly warmed to him. But Sophia couldn't shake the feeling that something about him was off. Victor made a point to stay on Angela's good side, constantly praising her business acumen and sharing ideas for expanding the family's company. Angela seemed invigorated, throwing herself into work with Victor by her side. Meanwhile, Sophia felt increasingly invisible. Victor's charm didn't extend to her. He barely acknowledged her presence, focusing instead on winning over Angela and Emma. Then came the bombshell. One evening, Angela sat Sophia down in the living room. "We're moving," she announced. "Victor and I are opening a new branch of the company in Denver. It's a fantastic opportunity." Sophia frowned. "What about school? My friends? Emma?" Angela's smile was tight. "Victor and I have decided it's best if you stay here in Portland. The new house won't have space, and you're almost done with school anyway." Sophia felt like she'd been slapped. "You're leaving me behind, just like Dad?" "Don't be dramatic," Angela said sharply. "You'll live with your grandmother. She's already agreed to it. This is what's best for everyone." As Sophia stormed to her room, anger and hurt coursed through her veins. She looked at the packed boxes scattered throughout the house, realizing that once again, her family was breaking apart, and there was nothing she could do to stop it. Sophia stood on the front porch, watching as the moving truck rumbled down the street. Angela and Victor barely looked back as they drove away. Emma's tearful face pressed against the car window. Beside her, Margaret placed a comforting hand. on Sophia's shoulder. "Come inside, dear. Let's get you settled." Living with her grandmother wasn't as bad as Sophia had feared. Margaret's home was warm and inviting, filled with the scent of fresh-baked cookies and the sound of jazz softly playing in the background. Though she gave Sophia space to process her emotions, Margaret always seemed to know when to offer a listening ear or a kind word. But no matter how comfortable Margaret's house was, it didn't feel like home. Sophia felt like a burden, uprooted, and abandoned by the people who were supposed to love her most. One evening, Margaret called Sophia into her office. The serious look on her grandmother's face made Sophia's stomach twist. "Sit down, Sophia," Margaret said, sliding a small folder across the desk. "I've been thinking about the future, and I want to entrust you with something important." Curious, Sophia opened the folder and froze. Inside was a formal document transferring ownership of the family company to her. "I don't understand," Sophia said, her voice barely above a whisper. Margaret smiled gently. "You're the one I trust to carry on the family legacy. Angela has her own priorities, and Victor, well, let's just say I don't trust him. But you, Sophia, have a good head on your shoulders. I know you'll do the right thing." Sophia felt a surge of panic. She was barely 20 years old, and suddenly, the weight of a multi-million-dollar company was being placed on her shoulders. I don't think I can do this," she stammered. "You can," Margaret said firmly, "and you will. But you don't have to do it alone. There's someone I think you should call, your father. He can help you." It took Sophia an entire week to gather the courage to call Eric. She dialed his number with trembling fingers, unsure of what to expect after years of silence. When he answered, his voice was cautious but warm. "Sophia, is that really you?" They arranged to meet at a quiet cafe in downtown Portland. As Sophia walked in, she spotted Eric sitting at a corner table, looking older and more tired than she remembered. But when he saw her, his face lit up with a mixture of relief and joy. The initial moments were awkward, filled with long silences and hesitant glances. Then, as if a dam had broken, Sophia began to pour out everything: the divorce, Angela's remarriage, her struggles living with Margaret, and the unexpected responsibility of the company. Eric listened intently, his expression a mixture of pain and understanding. When she finally finished, he reached across the table and took her hand. "Sophia, there's something you need to know," Eric said, his voice heavy with emotion. "Your mother didn't just push me out of your lives. She made it impossible for me to stay. After one of our fights, I made a mistake. I got drunk, and I cheated on her. But I confessed, and instead of trying to work through it, she used it to destroy me. She threatened to take everything: my home, my reputation, and most importantly, you and Emma. I left because I thought it was the only way to protect you." Sophia's heart sank as the weight of his words hit her. "Why didn't you fight for us?" she asked. Eric's eyes glistened with tears. "Because I didn't want to drag you and Emma through a messy public battle. I thought I was doing the right thing, but I see now that I was wrong." Sophia swallowed hard, her emotions swirling. "Will you help me?" she asked softly. "With the company?" Eric's warm smile was all the reassurance she needed. "Of course, Sophia. I'm here for you. Whatever you need." For the first time in years, Sophia felt a glimmer of hope. She wasn't alone anymore. She had her father back, and together, they would face whatever challenges lay ahead. The following weeks were a whirlwind as Sophia adjusted to her new responsibilities. Margaret walked her through the basics of the company, while Eric stepped in as a consultant, offering insights and guidance. For the first time, Sophia began to feel a sense of purpose, even as the weight of her new role loomed large. But the calm didn't last long. One evening, as Sophia was reviewing financial reports in Margaret's office, Margaret entered with a grim expression. "Sophia, we need to talk." Margaret explained that she had hired a private investigator to look into Victor and Angela's activities. "I've had my suspicions about Victor for a while," Margaret admitted, "and I wanted to make sure we're prepared for anything." Sophia felt a chill run down her spine. "What did they find?" Margaret handed her a folder. "It's worse than I thought. Victor isn't who he says he is." Inside the folder were records of Victor's shady dealings, fraudulent business ventures, embezzlement, and even a history of preying on wealthy women to gain access to their assets. The investigator had also uncovered proof of Angela's involvement in some of these schemes, including attempts to transfer company funds to their personal accounts. Sophia's stomach turned. "They were going to steal everything, weren't they?" Margaret nodded. "That's why I transferred the company to you. I couldn't risk them draining it dry." Sophia clenched her fists, anger bubbling inside her. "We need to confront them. They can't get away with this." Margaret placed a reassuring hand on her shoulder. "We will, but we need to do it carefully. Let's gather more evidence and consult with our legal team. We'll make sure they have no way out." Sophia nodded, determination hardening her resolve. This was no longer just about protecting the company. It was about justice. A week later, Angela and Victor showed up unannounced at Margaret's house. Sophia was in the kitchen when she heard their voices in the living room, loud and insistent. "Why? Can't we access the main accounts?" Angela demanded. "What's going on, Mother?" Margaret's voice was calm but firm. "Because those accounts are no longer yours to manage. The company belongs to Sophia now." Sophia entered the room just as Angela's face twisted in shock. "What? You gave her the company? She's just a child." Sophia stood her ground, meeting Angela's glare. "I'm not a child, Angela, and I know what you and Victor have been doing." Angela's expression faltered, but Victor stepped forward, his tone smooth and confident. "This is a misunderstanding. Angela and I have been working tirelessly for the company's growth. We deserve access to those funds." Margaret held up a hand, cutting him off. "Save it, Victor. We know about your history. The fraud, the scams, the women you've conned. We have all the evidence." Victor's confident demeanor cracked, his eyes narrowing. "You don't have proof." Margaret opened a folder on the coffee table and slid it toward them. "Take a look. Hotel receipts, financial transfers, even records of your previous arrests. Shall I call the authorities now, or would you prefer to leave quietly?" Angela's face turned pale as she skimmed through the documents. "This is absurd," she muttered, her voice shaking. "Victor loves me. He wouldn't—" Sophia interrupted, her voice steady and cold. "He's been using you, Angela, just like he's used everyone else, and you let him." Angela's shock gave way to anger. "You think you're so righteous, don't you? Taking what's mine and pretending you're better than me." Margaret stood, her voice unwavering. "This isn't about righteousness, Angela. It's about protecting what's left of this family from the damage you've caused." Victor grabbed Angela's arm. "Let's go," he muttered, his facade crumbling. Angela hesitated, glaring at Sophia one last time before following Victor out the door. As the door closed behind them, Sophia felt a wave of relief and a renewed determination. The fight was far from over, but she knew one thing for sure. She wasn't going to let them win. Sophia sat with Margaret and Eric in the living room, the air heavy with tension. The private investigator's findings had shifted everything, and now it was time to take action. "We need to secure the company before they try anything else," Eric said, his voice steady. "I'll contact a lawyer to ensure everything is airtight." Sophia nodded, though her stomach churned with nerves. "And what about Daisy? She's still with them." Margaret placed a hand on Sophia's shoulder. "That's why we need to act quickly. Eric, you need to file for custody. Daisy deserves better than being stuck in that environment." Eric hesitated, rubbing the back of his neck. "It won't be easy. Angela's going to fight this." Sophia spoke up, her voice firm. "Then we fight harder. For Daisy." The next few days, were a blur of meetings with lawyers and compiling evidence. Sophia found herself poring over financial reports and documents, searching for anything that could strengthen their case. Eric, meanwhile, worked tirelessly with the legal team to prepare for the custody battle. The day of the hearing arrived faster than Sophia had expected. She sat in the courtroom beside Eric, her hands clenched tightly in her lap. Angela entered with Victor, her expression icy and defiant. As the hearing began, Eric's lawyer presented a compelling case, highlighting Eric's stability and his consistent efforts to support his children, despite Angela's attempts to push him away. Then, the private investigator's report was revealed, exposing Victor's criminal past and their attempts to misuse company funds. Angela's lawyer scrambled to defend her, but the evidence was overwhelming. Sophia watched as Angela's confident demeanor began to crumble, replaced by anger and desperation. Finally, the judge made their ruling. Full custody of Daisy was granted to Eric. As the courtroom emptied, Angela approached them, her face twisted with fury. "This isn't over," she hissed before storming out with Victor. Sophia felt a mix of relief and sadness. They had won, but the victory came at a cost. Any lingering hope of reconciliation with Angela was gone. The weeks following the custody hearing were a whirlwind of adjustments. Daisy moved in with Eric, and Sophia visited regularly, eager to help her sister settle into her new life. Daisy seemed happier, her laughter filling the house as she played with her new puppy, a gift from Eric to celebrate their fresh start. For the first time in years, Sophia felt like they were becoming a real family again. Meanwhile, Margaret called a meeting with Sophia and Eric to discuss the next steps for the company. "Victor and Angela may have been dealt a blow, but they're not going to give up," Margaret warned. "We need to stay vigilant." Sophia nodded. "We've secured the accounts and reinforced the legal protections. If they try anything, we'll be ready." Despite the progress, there was an underlying tension Sophia couldn't shake. Angela's parting words echoed in her mind, a constant reminder that their fight might not be over. One evening, as Sophia reviewed documents in Margaret's office, her phone buzzed with a message from Eric. "Angela just came by," it read. "She's trying to reconcile. Said she wants us to be a family again." Sophia's heart sank as she stared at the screen. She knew Angela's sudden change of heart wasn't genuine. It was just another attempt to regain control. When Sophia called Eric, he sounded resolute. "I told her no. I made it clear that ship has sailed. We're not going back to the way things were." Sophia exhaled, relief washing over her. "Thank you, Dad, for standing up for us." Eric chuckled softly. "I should be thanking you. You've taught me how to be stronger." As the call ended, Sophia glanced around Margaret's office. The family's future still held challenges, but for the first time, she felt like they had a real chance at building something new, something better. Life slowly began to settle into a new normal. Sophia balanced her college classes with running the company, often spending late nights studying financial reports or crafting new business strategies with Eric's guidance. Margaret remained a constant source of support, offering advice when needed, and always reminding Sophia of her strength. On a crisp autumn morning, Margaret called Sophia and Eric to the house for an urgent meeting. When they arrived, Margaret's expression was grave. "The investigator has sent more updates," she said, sliding a folder across the table. Sophia opened it, her heart sinking as she scanned the pages. The new report revealed more details about Victor's schemes. He had used Angela to funnel money from her personal accounts into shadowy investments, most of which had already been drained. But that wasn't the worst of it. Margaret tapped a page and said, "Victor's history includes allegations of coercion and intimidation. He's dangerous, Sophia. This isn't just about money anymore." Sophia's mind raced. "Do we take this to the police?" Margaret nodded. "We're coordinating with the legal team now. Victor's actions have left a trail, and we have enough to press charges. But we need to be prepared for Angela's reaction." Eric frowned. She'll defend him, no matter the cost. Sophia felt a pang of sadness but pushed it aside. Then, we focus on protecting the company and Daisy. We can't let them manipulate their way out of this. Margaret smiled at Sophia, pride evident in her eyes. You've come a long way, my dear. I'm confident we'll get through this together. The legal team acted quickly, filing charges against Victor for fraud and financial misconduct. Within days, the authorities launched an investigation, freezing Victor's assets and summoning him for questioning. Angela, predictably, was furious. She stormed into Margaret's house uninvited, her face flushed with anger. "How dare you? Go after Victor like this?" she yelled, glaring at Sophia and Margaret. Margaret remained calm, standing her ground. "Victor's actions speak for themselves, Angela. He's a con artist, and you've been enabling him." Angela scoffed. "You're just jealous of what we've built together. You never supported me." Sophia stepped forward, her voice steady. "This isn't about jealousy, Angela. This is about justice. Victor used you and you let him. Now you're trying to blame everyone else instead of facing the truth." Angela's expression faltered for a moment, but her anger quickly returned. "You think you're so righteous, Sophia, taking everything that's mine. You don't know anything about sacrifice." Sophia clenched her fists. "Maybe I don't, but I know one thing. You chose Victor over your family, over Daisy, and over me. And now you're paying the price." Angela's face twisted with rage, but before she could respond, Eric entered the room. "That's enough. Angela," he said firmly. "This is over. You can't intimidate us anymore." Angela's gaze darted between Eric, Sophia, and Margaret, realizing she was outnumbered. With a final glare, she stormed out, slamming the door behind her. As silence settled over the room, Sophia exhaled deeply, her shoulders relaxing. "Do you think she'll ever admit the truth?" she asked. Margaret shook her head. "Some people never do, but it doesn't matter. We've done what we needed to do to protect our family and the company." Sophia nodded, a sense of resolve strengthening within her. The fight wasn't over, but for the first time she felt like they were, truly on the path to justice and to a brighter future. The fallout from the charges against Victor sent ripples through the family and the business. News of his fraudulent activities spread quickly, tarnishing Angela's reputation by association. Angela attempted to defend herself publicly, but the evidence against Victor was undeniable, and her credibility was in tatters. Sophia stayed focused, determined to rebuild the company's image and secure its future. She worked closely with Eric, who became a trusted advisor, and leaned on Margaret's experience. Daisy, now more comfortable in her new home, brought a sense of joy and normalcy to their lives, often drawing Sophia and Eric out of their intense work schedules with her light-hearted antics. Then, one quiet evening, Margaret called Sophia into her study. "There's something else we need to discuss," Margaret said, her tone serious, but kind. Sophia frowned. "What's wrong?" Margaret handed her another folder, but this time, it wasn't filled with evidence or legal documents. It was a business proposal. "It's time for you to take full control, Sophia. I've been holding onto my shares as a safety net, but I believe you're ready to lead this company on your own." Sophia's eyes widened. "You mean you're stepping down completely?" Margaret nodded. "It's your time now. You've proven yourself, not just to me, but to everyone around you. I know you'll take this company to heights I never imagined." Sophia hesitated, overwhelmed by the responsibility. But Margaret smiled reassuringly. "You're not alone, Sophia. You have Eric, Daisy, and me. We'll always be here to support you." Sophia took a deep breath, nodding. "I won't let you down." Months passed, and the company flourished under Sophia's leadership. She introduced new ideas and initiatives, bringing fresh energy to the business while honoring Margaret's legacy. Her success earned her the respect of the employees and the admiration of her family. Angela, meanwhile, faced the consequences of her choices. Victor, unable to escape the charges against him, was sentenced to prison. Left alone and financially ruined, Angela made a feeble attempt to reconcile with Sophia and Eric. Sophia met with Angela one last time, in a quiet cafe. Angela looked older, her once confident demeanor replaced by weariness. "I made mistakes," Angela admitted, her voice trembling. "I let my anger and pride ruin everything. I lost you, Daisy, and the company. I just want to fix things." Sophia studied her mother, searching for sincerity. "You can't undo the damage, Angela, but you can choose to do better moving forward. That's all I can hope for." Angela nodded, tears in her eyes. "I'll try. I promise." Sophia left the cafe feeling conflicted but at peace. She knew the relationship would never be the same, but she had done her part to close that chapter. On the day of Sophia's college graduation, her family gathered to celebrate. Eric and Daisy stood beside her, beaming with pride, while Margaret toasted her achievements. Sophia looked around, her heart full. "This isn't the life I imagined," Sophia said, raising her glass. "But it's more than I ever hoped for. Thank you for believing in me, for standing by me, and for being my family." As they laughed and clinked glasses, Sophia felt a sense of completion. The challenges of the past had shaped her into the person she was today. Strong, determined, and ready to face whatever the future held. Though the road had been long and filled with twists and turns, Sophia knew one thing for certain. Her journey was just beginning, and she was finally in control of her destiny.